You know how it is. In a world that demands pretty much everything from us, how do we find any kind of balance without just completely burning out? Well, today, we're going to dive into a simple but really powerful system from Eric Partaker's book, The Three Alarms. It's all about helping you thrive, not just get by.
Does this feel a little too familiar? You're juggling your job, you're trying to stay healthy, and you're trying to actually be present for your family and friends. It's like to win in one area, you've got to lose in another, right? We all want to be our best selves, but man, why is it so incredibly hard to actually get there?
So what's really going on here? Well, the author, Eric Partaker, he calls this the peak performance problem. And it's basically the huge gap between knowing we should be doing well in all parts of our life and the reality, which is feeling like we're constantly falling short. This is about so much more than just crushing it at work. It's about feeling whole, feeling fulfilled. So let's look at the hidden traps that are causing this whole problem. Okay, so these traps, they're super sneaky, but they are so powerful. First up, we just aren't intentional enough. A vague goal like, I want to be successful. That gives you nothing to actually aim for. Second, perfectionism totally paralyzes us. The fear of making a mistake is often so big, it stops us from even starting. And finally, we fall into this trap of overstructuring, this belief that every single day has to be some kind of major breakthrough. But real peak performance, it's about consistency, not a constant highlight reel. All right, so how in the world do we escape these traps? Well, the solution starts with a pretty fundamental shift in perspective, and it's all built around a simple but really powerful analogy, the tripod of your life. We live in this hustle culture, right, where working 17-hour days is somehow a badge of honor. But let's be real, the research is totally clear on this. Running on empty is not a sign of strength. People who get just 6 hours of sleep a night function just as poorly as people who've been awake for 48 hours straight. True success just can't come at the expense of your health or your well-being. And this, right here, is the core of the whole solution. I want you to imagine your life as a tripod. The three legs are your health, your work, and your relationships. Now think about it. If you neglect one of those legs, if it gets weak or wobbly, the entire structure just becomes unstable. If your health starts to suffer, your work and your relationships, they're going to feel that strain, no question about it. They are all deeply, deeply connected. This whole idea of a balanced life isn't some new age self-help fad. It's actually a deep, profound truth. In his incredible work, the Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl noticed that survival in the most unimaginable conditions, it often came down to finding meaning. And where did that meaning come from? He pinpointed three sources: meaningful work, love for others, and courage in the face of suffering. You see how those map perfectly onto the three legs of our tripod? A fulfilling life is a meaningful life, and it's balanced across these core areas. Okay, before we get to the practical tools, the real nuts and bolts, there's a really critical mindset shift that we need to make first. This is the foundation for everything else, and it's all about discovering your heroic self. Now, this is huge, so listen up. Lasting change doesn't start with what you do. It starts with who you believe you are. It's so much easier to act like a focused, healthy person once you actually start to see yourself as that person. Your actions will always, always follow your identity. Let me show you exactly what I mean with a great story. All right, so there's this awesome story about a skier named Neil Fior. He was good, really good, but he was just stuck. No matter how hard he trained, he could not break through to that next level of performance. He totally hit a wall. So during one lesson, his instructor gives him this totally bizarre piece of advice. He says, okay, for this next run, forget about being Neil. Today, you are going to ski as Hans, a world-class Swiss champion. Just imagine you are him. And you won't believe what happened. The result was immediate. Just by mentally stepping into the shoes, or, the skis, of Hans, his posture changed, his confidence shot up, his technique, everything improved. He broke through his plateau, not by trying harder, but by changing who he believed he was in that moment. That right there, that's the power of identity. Okay, so we've got the philosophy down, we understand the power of identity. Now, let's get into the simple, practical tool for putting all of this into practice every single day. This is the 3 alarms method. And believe me, it is as straightforward as it sounds. First, you define your heroic self for each of those 3 tripod legs. Who is the absolute best version of you in your health, in your work, and in your relationships? Second, you just set 3 daily alarms on your phone and you label them with those identities. And finally, when an alarm goes off, that's your cue. It's your reminder to consciously step into that identity and act as that person would. Let's look at a real-world example from the author himself so you can see exactly how this works. At 6:30 in the morning, his alarm for World Fitness Champion rings. Boom! That's his cue to focus on his health. At 9 a.m., it's World's Best Coach, and his focus shifts to his work. And then at 6:30 p.m., the World's Best Husband and Dad alarm brings his attention right back to his family. And look, these titles, they're not about ego, they are powerful little reminders of the person that he's striving to become. But what happens when your motivation just disappears? You're tired, you want to skip the gym, or you want to grab that late night snack. We've all been there. The key is to create a pause. In that moment of temptation, you just stop and you ask yourself, what would my heroic self do right now? That brief pause, it creates just enough space between the impulse and the action to make a conscious choice. A choice that lines up with the person you actually want to be. Now look, this isn't some kind of magic pill. It's not an overnight transformation. It's a journey. And that journey of mastering your best self, it actually happens in a few distinct stages. It all starts with stage 1, just awareness. You start consciously thinking about these 3 domains. Then comes stage 2, occasional slip-ups. You're going to make mistakes for sure, but every single one is a chance to learn. Pretty soon, you'll hit stage 3, the pause, where you start catching yourself before you just react on impulse. Over time, you'll get to stage 4, mastering the pause, where it becomes second nature. And that's when you can reach stage 5, the nirvana moment, where your best self isn't an act anymore. It's just who you are. And that's really what this all boils down to. This is not a system for being perfect. It's a framework for being intentional. It's about consistently showing up and making those small, deliberate choices that line up with the person you truly want to become. One alarm, one domain at a time. So I'll leave you with just one simple but really powerful question to carry with you into your day. When that first alarm rings tomorrow morning, who does your best self need you to be? Thanks for tuning in.